The gym smelled of sweat and polished wood, the sound of sneakers squeaking against the court filling the air. Riku sat quietly on the bleachers, his backpack resting on his knees, watching his older brother move across the basketball court like he owned it. Daichi was everything Riku wasn't: tall, confident, loud, and admired. His laughter carried across the gym, drawing the attention of teammates and even students who weren't part of practice. To them, he was the perfect captain, a natural leader, someone who shone brighter than everyone else. And then there was Ren. Ren's sharp eyes followed Daichi's every move with a cold intensity. His black hair clung slightly to his forehead from the heat of the game, but not once did he lose his composure. Where Daichi was passionate and loud, Ren was silent, calculating. Every shot he made seemed designed to slice through Daichi's pride, and every smirk he gave was like a dagger. The tension between them was so thick that even the coach gave up trying to ease it. The rivalry wasn't just about basketball anymore. It was about pride, dominance, and something far deeper that Riku couldn't quite name. "Damn it, Ren!" Daichi barked when Ren stole the ball cleanly from him and scored without breaking a sweat. Ren's lips curved into the faintest smirk as he tossed the ball back to the referee. His gaze flicked, sharp as glass, straight at Daichi. "Try harder, Captain. You're making it too easy." The gym erupted in murmurs, teammates torn between admiration and fear. Rika lowered his eyes, wishing he could disappear. It was always like this, his brother clashing with Ren while he sat in the background, invisible, unnoticed. Except this time, something different happened. As the whistle blew and practice ended, Ren's gaze swept across the court once more. It should have stopped on Daichi. It always did. But instead, it landed on Riku. The weight of it was suffocating. For a split second, Ren's eyes softened, losing their sharpness. His lips curved, not into mockery, but into something unreadable. Warm, almost. Rika froze. His chest tightened as if someone had gripped it. He quickly looked away, telling himself he must have imagined it. Why would Ren ever look at him like that? That night, Rika tried to shake off the memory as he walked home. The streets were quiet, lined with dim street lamps that buzzed faintly. He preferred walking alone. It was one of the few times no one compared him to Daichi. But then he heard footsteps. Slow, deliberate. Turning, he saw him. Ren. Rika's pulse quickened. Ren walked a few paces behind, hands shoved into his pockets, his expression unreadable in the glow of the streetlight. Riku quickened his pace. He's just messing with me. He wants Daichi to notice. That's all. Yet when he stopped at a crossing, Ren closed the distance easily and came to stand beside him. No smirk, no mocking words, just silence. The quiet was worse than anything. "Why are you following me?" Rika finally asked, his voice barely above a whisper. Ren glanced down at him, eyes glinting. "Who says I'm following you? Maybe I just live this way." But Rika knew it wasn't true. Ren lived across town. His throat went dry, but he said nothing. When the light turned green, he hurried across, praying Ren wouldn't continue. But when he reached his street and glanced back, Ren was still there, keeping just enough distance, like a shadow that refused to leave. The next day at school, Riku found his usual quiet corner in class already occupied. His seat, the one no one ever wanted because it was by the window and half hidden, now had Ren sitting in it. Rika stopped at the doorway, heart sinking. Ren didn't move. He leaned back casually in the chair, spinning Riku's pen between his fingers. His gaze lifted slowly, deliberately, until their eyes met. "You're late," Ren said smoothly, as though the seat had always been his. "This is my desk," Rika managed, his voice shaking. Ren tilted his head. "So sit. There's room." The students around them whispered, exchanging shocked glances. Ren wasn't the type to share space, let alone with someone like Riku. Against his better judgment, Rika slid into the seat. His whole body was tense, aware of Ren's shoulder brushing against his, the faint smell of cedar and sweat clinging to him. He wanted to vanish. When the teacher began the lesson, Rika tried to focus on the board, but every time he shifted his eyes, Ren was there, watching him instead of the chalk. It was unbearable. At lunch, it got worse. A group of boys cornered Riku near the vending machine, shoving his shoulder as they laughed. He wasn't strong enough to fight back, and he hated that about himself. Daichi would never get pushed around like this. Move, weakling. You're in the way. One of them sneered. Before Riku could answer, a hand shot out, gripping the boy's wrist with iron force. Ren. The laughter died instantly. Ren's gaze burned like fire as he leaned in close to the boy, his voice low and dangerous. Touch him again, and I'll break more than your pride. The group scattered, pale-faced, leaving Riku frozen. Ren turned to him, releasing the tension as quickly as he created it. His expression softened in a way Riku had never seen before. You okay? Riku's lips parted, but no words came. His chest pounded. He nodded quickly, then grabbed his juice and fled. That night, Riku lay awake staring at the ceiling. Ren's gaze haunted him. The softness of it, the way he'd stepped in, unhesitating, as though protecting Riku was natural. But it didn't make sense. It couldn't. He's doing this to provoke Daichi. He has to be. Why else would someone like Ren notice me? And yet, in the quiet of his room, Riku couldn't shake the terrifying thought that maybe, just maybe, it wasn't about Daichi at all. The next morning, Riku tried to convince himself it had all been a dream. Maybe Ren hadn't really followed him home. Maybe he hadn't stepped in at the vending machine. Maybe he hadn't sat in his seat, like it was his throne. But the illusion shattered the moment he entered class. Ren was there. Again. Sitting at Riku's desk like it belonged to him. His long legs stretched out. His eyes half-lidded in boredom. But the moment Riku stepped inside, his expression sharpened. It was like the whole room faded until there was only him. Riku's stomach tightened. Every part of him wanted to turn and walk out. But the teacher's voice rang out behind him. Riku, hurry up and sit down. Don't dawdle. Heat rushed to his cheeks. He walked stiffly to his desk, slipping into the seat beside Ren. The whispers began immediately. Why's Ren sitting there? Do you think he's messing with Daichi's brother? He's so scary, why Riku of all people? Their voices cut like knives, but Ren seemed deaf to them. Instead, he leaned just close enough for only Riku to hear. You walk fast, he murmured. Riku stiffened. What? Last night. Ren continued smoothly, his tone low, intimate. I almost lost you at the crosswalk. You should slow down. Riku's hands clenched beneath the desk. His pulse pounded in his ears. He swallowed. You were following me. Ren tilted his head, feigning innocence. Following? No, just walking. Coincidence. But the glint in his eyes betrayed him. It wasn't coincidence. Riku turned toward the board, pretending to focus on the lesson. But the weight of Ren's gaze never lifted. Every second, it burned into his skin, hot and unbearable. By lunch, he couldn't take it anymore. He slipped away from the cafeteria and found a quiet stairwell, hidden and dusty, where he usually ate in peace. Except peace didn't last long. The door creaked open. Riku froze, his sandwich halfway to his lips. Ren. He closed the door softly behind him, his presence filling the space, as if the air itself bent to him. He didn't say anything at first, just walked closer, slow, deliberate, until Riku was pressed against the cold railing. Riku's heart hammered. Why are you here? Ren's eyes locked onto his, sharp and unyielding. Why are you hiding? I'm not hiding, Riku stammered. Liar. Ren stepped closer, caging him in, with one hand braced on the railing beside his shoulder. Their faces were inches apart now, Ren's voice dropping to a whisper. You think I don't see you. You sit in the background, always shrinking, always silent. But I see you, Riku. Riku's breath hitched. His chest ached with the force of his heartbeat. You're only doing this to get to Daichi. Something flickered in Ren's expression, annoyance, maybe even hurt. But it vanished too quickly to read. He leaned in closer, his breath warm against Riku's ear. Your brother doesn't matter, Ren said softly. Not when I'm looking at you. Riku shoved past him, panic clawing at his chest. He fled the stairwell, his footsteps echoing in the empty hall, refusing to look back. That evening, Daichi cornered him at home. Riku had barely set down his bag when his brother stormed into his room, slamming the door shut. His face was flushed, his fists clenched. What the hell is going on with you and Ren? Rika froze. What? Don't play dumb. Daichi snapped. I saw him sitting next to you. I heard people talking. And today he almost got into a fight with my teammate because he wouldn't stop staring at you. Rika's stomach dropped. Ren's intensity wasn't just visible to him anymore. Others were noticing. Daichi grabbed his shoulders, shaking him lightly. Listen to me. Ren is dangerous. He'll use you, just like he tries to use everything else. He's manipulative, obsessed with winning, and he'll crush anyone in his way. Don't let him near you. Rika swallowed hard, his voice barely audible. Why me, though? Daichi's grip tightened. Because you're my brother. He knows if he gets to you, he gets to me. The words lodged in Rika's chest like splinters. They made sense. Of course Ren was only using him as a pawn. Of course. That was the only explanation. And yet, why did Ren's eyes soften when no one else was looking? The days that followed only grew worse. Ren was everywhere. In the classroom, his seat pressed against Riku's. In the hallways, his hand brushing Riku's shoulder as he passed. At practice, leaning casually against the wall, watching with a gaze too sharp, too focused. And then there were the moments that made Riku's skin prickle. Like when Ren pinned him against the lockers one afternoon, the hallway deserted. Why won't you look at me? Ren murmured, his hand flat against the metal beside Riku's head. I don't know what you want, Riku whispered, his voice trembling. Ren's gaze softened, just for an instant. I want you to stop pretending you don't feel it. Before Riku could reply, footsteps echoed. Ren pulled back instantly, his face cold again as Daichi rounded the corner. The two boys locked eyes, the air between them electric with hatred. Get away from him, Daichi growled. Ren smirked, shoving his hands in his pockets as he strolled off. Relax, Captain. I'm just having a chat. Daichi turned to Riku. Fury and worry etched across his face. I told you to stay away from him. But Riku couldn't speak. His lips parted, his heart a storm of fear and confusion. Because deep down, he knew something Daichi didn't. Ren wasn't just playing a game. His eyes didn't lie. And that terrified Riku more than anything. That night, as rain pattered against his window, Riku lay awake again, staring into the dark. Ren's voice echoed at his head. I see you. For the first time in his life, someone had looked past Daichi's shadow and seen him. Not as the quiet brother, not as the invisible boy, but as himself. And though he wanted to deny it, to push it all away, a small, treacherous part of him ached for that gaze, for that attention. Because for once, he wasn't invisible. He was seen. And that was more dangerous than anything else. The days blurred together, yet Ren's presence never faded. It was relentless, suffocating, like a storm cloud that hovered only over Riku. But one afternoon, the storm cracked, and for the first time, Riku glimpsed something beneath Ren's cold exterior. It happened after basketball practice. Riku had stayed behind in the gym, waiting for Daichi. The court was mostly empty now, the air heavy with the smell of sweat and faint echoes of bouncing balls. He was about to slip out when he noticed Ren sitting alone on the bleachers. His rival's usual smirk was gone. Instead, Ren leaned forward with his elbows on his knees, staring at the floor. In his hands, he turned a small chain over and over, the metal glinting faintly in the fluorescent light. Something about the sight froze Riku in place. Ren looked fragile, like he was carrying a weight no one else could see. Before Riku could slip away unnoticed, Ren's voice cut through the silence. You're terrible at hiding. Riku flinched. I wasn't. Ren's head lifted slowly, and this time there was no sharpness in his gaze. Just exhaustion. You always linger, Ren said, slipping the chain into his pocket. You watch Daichi, then leave like a shadow. Don't you ever get tired of it? Riku's throat tightened. I'm used to it. Ren's lips curved faintly, but it wasn't a smirk. That's the difference between you and him. Daichi lives in the spotlight. You survive in the dark. Riku bristled. What would you know about me? For a moment, Ren was silent. Then he exhaled slowly, leaning back against the bleachers. More than you think. Later that week, the two crossed paths again. This time, it wasn't in the safety of school. Rico had stopped by the convenience store on his way home, the sky above him heavy with clouds. Just as he stepped out with his bag of groceries, the rain broke. Sheets of water poured down, drenching the streets. He stood helplessly under the awning, debating whether to wait it out, when a voice cut through the storm. "You'll catch a cold standing there." Ren. He was leaning casually against the wall, though his uniform shirt clung to him, plastered by rain. Without hesitation, he pulled an umbrella from his bag and held it over Riku's head. "Let's go." Riku froze. "Why are you here?" Ren's expression softened just slightly, though his voice carried that same quiet intensity. "Because you're here." The answer sent a shiver down Riku's spine. They walked side by side through the downpour, the umbrella forcing them closer than he wanted. The sound of rain was deafening, yet beneath it, Ren spoke quietly. "My father left when I was 10, he said suddenly. "My mother works 3 jobs, barely sleeps. I learned fast that no one's going to fight for me. Not unless I fight first." Riku blinked, startled. Ren's words didn't sound rehearsed. They sounded raw, painful. "Why are you telling me this?" Riku asked carefully. Ren glanced at him, his eyes shadowed but sincere. "Because you're the only one who listens." Riku's chest tightened. He wanted to deny it, to tell Ren he was wrong. But he couldn't, because the truth was, he had been listening. Always. Even when he didn't want to. The rivalry between Daichi and Ren only worsened. On the court, every game was war. Ren's movements grew sharper, his challenges more vicious. Daichi fought back with equal fire, their anger crackling like electricity. And Riku was caught in the middle. He saw the way Ren's gaze lingered on him during matches, a silent anchor in the chaos. He saw the way Daichi's eyes darkened whenever he caught it. It all came to a head one evening. Riku had stayed late in the library, hoping to avoid both of them. As he packed his books, the lights flickered, signaling closing time. He stepped into the hall, only to find Ren waiting. The corridor was deserted, the windows dark with night. Ren leaned casually against the lockers, but his eyes burned with something far from casual. "You keep running," Ren said softly. "Why?" Riku tightened his grip on his books. "Because I don't know what you want from me." Ren stepped forward, closing the distance. His hand brushed Riku's, deliberately slow, sending sparks racing up his arm. "I've told you already. I want you." Riku's heart pounded so loudly it drowned the silence. He shook his head. "No, you want to hurt Daichi. This is just part of your rivalry." Ren's jaw tightened. "You really think I'd waste this much time, this much of myself, just for him?" His voice cracked with emotion, raw and unguarded. "Everything I've done, Riku, every glance, every step, it's never been about Daichi. It's always been you." Before Riku could respond, a sharp voice cut through the hall. "Get away from him." "Daichi." He stormed forward, fury blazing in his eyes. His fist collided with Ren's collar, slamming him against the lockers with a loud clang. Riku gasped, frozen in place as the two boys faced off. Ren smirked despite the chokehold, his voice low and taunting. "Jealous, Captain? Afraid your little brother finally means more to someone than you do." Daichi's fist drew back, ready to strike. "Stop!" Riku's voice rang out, trembling but desperate. Both boys froze, eyes snapping to him. Riku's breath came in shallow gasps. He looked at Ren, then at Daichi, his chest aching with the weight of their rivalry. The truth crashed down on him, undeniable now. Ren wasn't lying. It wasn't about Daichi anymore. It was about him. That night, Riku lay awake again, his mind spiraling. The moment replayed endlessly. Ren's confession, Daichi's fury, the way both of them looked at him like he was the center of their war. For so long, he had lived in his brother's shadow. He had convinced himself he was invisible, unimportant. But now he realized he wasn't invisible at all. He was the spark that could ignite everything, and that terrified him more than anything else. The storm finally broke the night everything came crashing down. Thunder rumbled outside the house, rattling the windows as rain lashed against the glass. Riku sat on the edge of his bed, his hands trembling in his lap. He couldn't erase Ren's words from his mind. It's always been you. Every glance, every moment, every heartbeat since then pulsed with that confession. He wanted to deny it, to bury it deep where no one could see. But he couldn't, because when Run looked at him, truly looked at him, Riku felt something he had never felt in his life. He felt seen. The door burst open. Daichi stormed in, his hair damp from the rain, his expression dark and furious. "We need to talk," he said, his voice tight, with barely restrained anger. Riku swallowed hard. "About Ren." "Who else?" Daichi snapped. "Riku, you don't understand. He's dangerous. He'll tear you apart just to get to me. That's all this is, some twisted game." Riku shook his head weakly. "You're wrong." Daichi froze. "What did you say?" "You're wrong." Riku's voice trembled, but he forced himself to continue. "Ren doesn't care about you anymore. He cares about me." Daichi's face twisted with disbelief, then fury. "And you believe that? After everything he's done?" Riku's chest ached. His brother had always protected him, always stood in front of him like a shield. But now, that shield felt like a cage. "Daichi," his voice cracked, "I don't want to be invisible anymore." The silence between them was deafening. Daichi's fists clenched, his jaw tight. But before he could respond, a loud thud shook the window. Riku turned sharply. Ren stood outside in the storm, rain pouring down his face, his dark eyes locked on Riku's. Moments later, Riku found himself running through the downpour, his heart hammering in his chest. Daichi's shouts echoed behind him, but he didn't stop. He couldn't. Ren stood at the edge of the street, soaked to the bone, but when Riku reached him, his gaze burned with the same fire as always. "Why are you here?" Riku gasped, rain dripping down his face. Ren's voice was raw, stripped of all pretense. "Because I couldn't stay away. Not tonight. Not when I thought he'd finally convince you to hate me." Riku's breath hitched. "He says you're dangerous, that you'll hurt me." Ren stepped closer, his hand trembling as it reached for Riku's. He didn't touch him, just hovered there, waiting. "He's right. I am dangerous. I've hurt people. I've broken things. But not you. Never you." Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the truth in Ren's eyes. Vulnerability. Desperation. A plea. "Riku," Ren whispered, his voice breaking. "I don't want your brother's pride. I don't want his shadow. I just want you." The rain poured harder, blurring everything except the boy standing in front of him. Riku's chest ached with the weight of choice. Daichi's voice still rang in his head, sharp and demanding. "Stay away from Ren." But Ren's words cut deeper, softer, truer. "I see you." For once in his life, Riku didn't want to choose for someone else. Not for Daichi, not for anyone. He wanted to choose for himself. And his heart already knew the answer. He reached out, his trembling fingers closing around Ren's hand. Ren froze, eyes widening. "Riku, I don't know if this is right," Riku whispered, his voice shaking. "But when you look at me, I don't feel like Daichi's shadow anymore. I feel like me." Ren's breath shuddered out of him, his other hand lifting to cup Riku's face with startling gentleness. "You've always been you. I just wanted you to see it." The distance between them vanished. Not with a kiss, not yet, but with the raw closeness of two hearts finally laid bare. "Riku!" Daichi's voice sliced through the storm. He was running toward them, his expression twisted with anger and fear. Ren stiffened, instinctively pulling Riku behind him, but Riku stepped forward instead, facing his brother with trembling resolve. "Daichi, stop." His brother froze, shocked. "I know you want to protect me," Riku said, his voice breaking but steady. "But this isn't about you anymore. This is about me. My choice." Daichi's eyes widened, hurt flashing across his face. "So you choose him? After everything?" Riku's chest ached. "I don't know what the future will look like. I don't know if it'll hurt. But yes, I choose him." The silence that followed was heavier than the storm itself. Daichi's fists trembled at his sides, his expression torn between rage and heartbreak. At last, he turned away, his shoulders rigid. "Then don't come crying to me when he breaks you." His words cut deep, but Riku stood his ground. For the first time, he wasn't Daichi's little brother. He wasn't invisible. He was Riku, and Ren was the one holding his hand. As Daichi's figure disappeared into the rain, Rika sagged, tears mixing with the downpour. Ren pulled him close, wrapping his arms around him with a fierceness that was both protective and desperate. "I'll prove him wrong," Ren whispered into his hair. "I'll never let you regret this." Rika buried his face against Ren's chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat. Despite the storm, despite the chaos, he felt safe. Not in his brother's shadow, not in fear, but in the arms of the boy who had always seen him. That night, as the rain slowly eased and the world grew quiet again, Rika knew one truth with terrifying clarity. The boy his brother hated the most was the one who held his heart,